Good morning, gang. Happy Saturday morning. Okay, nice day today here. Supposed to be sunny. Thank God. Rain is driving me nuts. Day to plant my potatoes. It's that time of year for me, at least. All right. So, in the realm of preparing for whatever's coming, most people, at least preppers, okay, will stock food, stock water, stock ammunition. Oh, maybe they'll stock gold and silver. Maybe they will have preparations for electricity or for alternate forms of heat or whatever. But what good does that do you if you're dead? Okay. One of the things that hardly gets talked about and probably should is the situation of medicine in the United States. Okay. This is where it gets a little scary. According to the Mayo Clinic, 70% of Americans take prescription drugs. Antibiotics, antidepressants, painkiller, opioids, those three are the most common prescriptions given to Americans. Okay. Now, antibiotics, obviously, you don't need those every day of your life. Okay. Painkillers, no, you don't need those every day of your life. Antidepressants, depending on the person, maybe they do. If you look at the top prescriptions that are given to Americans, statins are number one. Okay, that's for cholesterol. Something like lisinopril, which I'm on for blood pressure, is number two. Albuterol is number three. That's for bronchospasms and stuff like that. You know, maybe you've got asthma or bronchitis or whatever it is. All right. And then levothyroxine is number four, and that's for thyroid issues. Those are the most common top four drugs. Now, to give you this, there was a report that came out yesterday from the American Society of Health System Pharmacists on, get this, drug shortages. Apparently, we now have more drug shortages in the United States than ever before. That should worry people. Now, primarily, well, I can't even say primarily, but as the ASHP came out and said, all drug classes, this is their quote, all drug classes are vulnerable to shortages. Some of the most worrying shortages involve generic sterile injectable medications, including cancer chemotherapy drugs and emergency medications stored in hospital crash carts and procedural areas. Yeah. Okay. So this is where we get into the big problem of, well, let's send all our manufacturing somewhere else. More than 80% of the drugs that we get in the United States come from India and China. Okay. Even if you go to one of these online Canadian pharmacies where you can get your prescription or get your medicine without a prescription in a lot of cases, those drugs are still being manufactured in India and China. That's a problem because all we need is a war to start between India and Pakistan, a war to start between India and China, or get bigger because there's always already a skirmish, if you will, going on the eastern border of India, the western border of China, disputed territory. If China goes into Taiwan and the U.S. decides to support Taiwan, how fast do you think it takes China to go, we ain't sending any more stuff to the United States? And that includes pharmaceuticals. So, what do you do? Well, a lot of people, including me, are trying to manage our health to get off of some of the prescriptions that we are on. Okay. I may or may not be able to get off my blood pressure meds because that's hereditary for me. All right. So we'll see what happens. But healthy diet, losing weight, you guys know that I am actively doing that at this point. But there's some things that you can't control. You know, an asthmatic can't control having asthma, or somebody with a thyroid issue can't control by diet or something their thyroid issues. And there's, you know, controlling depression or anxiety or something like that. Lifestyle changes, maybe, but I mean, something, and I ain't a doctor, trust me. But sometimes those things can't be controlled other than with medicine. We all want to get off of it. Many, many, many times we have talked about, you guys have talked about homeopathic remedies, or, you know, any sort of natural type remedies. I've mentioned, I did a video on it one time about 10 medicines you can find in your yard. But it behooves everybody to learn about the natural remedies. It also behooves everybody to find out from their doctor if they can get a bigger prescription, a longer prescription. I mean, I know most of the time a hospital will give you 90 days, or a doctor's office will give you 90 days worth of your meds. Okay. And what happens after 90 days if you can't get them anymore? I mean, again, we mention the book 1 Second After all the time, and many of you have read it. Remember the story of the colonel's daughter and insulin. Couldn't get it, then went little that he could get, couldn't keep cold, and eventually she dies. This is the point I'm trying to make. We stock everything to keep ourselves alive, but the medicines that you need to stay alive, do you have those? And if you can't get more, do you at least have the knowledge on what you can use alternatively? And once you have that knowledge, can you acquire that? All right. I mean, if it means something as simple as growing a plant in your garden that, hey, in a worst case scenario, I can take this for my blood pressure, or I know what food to eat that will help reduce my cholesterol, or pick something. Do you have that knowledge? Have you gone and researched it? Watching YouTube videos is fine. Doing the research is fine. But putting into practice what you learn, what you hear, the information that you get, will mean the difference between your life and your death. And at that point, maybe it's something simple of growing lavender in your garden. Is that the different, doesn't matter how many thousands of jars of food you've canned if you're dead. Doesn't matter how many thousands of dollars you've spent on guns and ammo, and how much time you went to the range to train to the point where, you can hit a Pepsi can from 1,000 yards. Great. It doesn't matter if you're dead. If you're on medicines, figure out what you need to do to get off of them if possible, or what the alternatives are if you can't get them anymore. Of course, try to get your doctor to prescribe more. I know many people have said they take half a tablet or something instead of a full tablet to stretch out their meds. Okay, that's a personal choice. I'm not going to recommend doing something that the doctor didn't prescribe. He says take 20 milligrams, you take 20 milligrams, not take 10. Uh, but get out and get the knowledge and put into practice what it's going to take to save your butt. Because honestly, in an SHTF situation, which it seems every day we're getting closer and closer to, okay, you're of no use to your family, you're of no use to your mag, you're of no use to your community if you're bedridden because whatever medicine that you should be on you can't take. At that point, and as hard as this is to say, you will become a useless eater to those who are trying to survive in your group. And then what is your value? Because when it comes to life, look out for number one. In a survival situation, I don't care how much somebody loves you. I don't care if it's a spouse, your kids, whatever. Your basic instinct is to survive yourself before anybody else's survival. And that may come into play because when there's only a little bit of food or the Chinese are coming over the hill, if there's bullets flying, is somebody next to you going to go, well, let's drag John out because he can't move on his own because he couldn't be on his medicines or whatever? Or are they going to try to scramble for themselves? You'd hope they drag you out first, but eventually that comes to a point where they can't. It's up to each one of us to keep ourselves as healthy as possible. That's something we have to do on our own. See if you can get whatever medicines are short, whatever medicines you take, see if you can stockpile them. Make sure to learn what alternatives are and take action. Pinball out.